Hello and welcome to the Merlin Lock podcast. I'm Merle.
And I'm Locke.
Set sail and low expectations for everything nerd, accompanied by a healthy, albeit shameful helping of pointless banter, lack of focus, and questionably acquired knowledge. All right, to start us off, Locke, we hear this often, right? Well, I feel like most people have heard this before, but it's something that I've been hearing more recently, once again, and it's when people say video games are for children. So, what are initially, right off the bat, what are your thoughts on that statement?
I see it as wrong. Now, I do see like certain video games are more for children. Let's see, God of War would not be a children's game. Uh,
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but there are other games that children could play, like Roblox. Like I see that as a children's game because
Oh, yeah.
it's not gory. It's not um, something to traumatize your children.
Right, right. So my thoughts on this generally is when they say like video games are for children, it's because as an adult you're meant to be more miserable, right? You're
Hmm.
not like if you're having fun doing what you're doing, you're wrong,
Hmm.
right? You need to do stuff that you don't want to do. Yeah. So I realize yes, there's room for that, right? If you need to make a living, you have responsibilities, you have a family that you need to take care of. Yes, I get that. I understand that. But leisurely time for video games, I feel like it's a good hobby. It's a great hobby. I mean, it's great storytelling in a lot of these video games. It's a way to blow off steam. It's a way to get emotionally invested in a story, especially for people who don't like to particularly read books, or maybe they're not that into movies, but they like video games and they're like in uh, taking in the story that way by participating in the story.
Right.
And I feel like it's a way to enjoy the art of storytelling.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's a good way of opening a kid's imagination or anybody's imagination for those that allow it. Some people just don't open up their minds in a video game to the imagination aspect, like the RPG, the I'm gonna create a certain character and a backstory for my character and whatnot. Like I find that a little fun. I didn't find it as fun when I was younger, but eventually as I got older, I was like, you know what, that's kind of fun. I started creating ideas, background for characters, voices, because I got into a lot of your voice actors and was like, that'd be fun to do.
Right. Yeah. And my thoughts on that are so when I see like with my own child when she plays video games, she's not looking into getting into storytelling. She likes playing games for the solely the gameplay aspect of it. So I understand that, like those kind of games that are shallow as far as lore or lack of storytelling. I see that being enjoyable for kids because it's not that much to think about. It's something to do, something to have fun with your friends. But then when you become an adult, it you're looking you're so often looking to just get lost in something. Try to escape reality, if only for a small amount of time. Just
That's just it too. Like we use it as a scapegoat to escape reality a bit.
right.
When we were younger, like I know when I was younger, it was the I need to escape from certain home stuff, and I would resort to video games. And if I couldn't escape from it in video games, I would go out and I'd play. I'd go out, hang out with friends. That was the other escape.
I feel like video games have come such a long way that initially, yes, I could see it being for children, like as far as like let's say Mario Brothers or all the Atari games, like and where it's just there's no story or anything involved. It's just you know just a platformer of some kind, and it's simplistic in its design. It's entertaining. I could see that being for children just to have fun. But video games have become so much more over the years, like as far as the capabilities of programmers and being able to give us all this cinematic input and these compelling stories, something that reaches like deep down emotionally and just pulls you in, kind of like getting lost in a good book.
Right.
And that's something that like not many kids at least are very into. So I feel like now more than ever video games are made more for mature folk. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know that that could be argued. You know, it's an incredible way to take in a story, especially if you're not into books or you're not entertained enough from movies and you need to get your hands dirty and participate and have input into the story and how it progresses. So I feel like the argument video games are for children is just it's ignorant.
Right.
I feel like the people that say that are just the people that haven't experienced the art of storytelling in video games.
Right. Or like actually had played a really well written video game. Something that I discussed with somebody at work not too long ago. We were discussing video games. She was stating that video games just do not provide anything beneficial to kids. Like kids go to these things and she just believes that they don't really provide anything beneficial. Now, what would you say to that? I know what I'd say, but what would you say?
Okay, do not provide anything beneficial. Okay. Now, I've been okay with my child playing video games from the get-go because there's so much that she's learned through playing video games. Like she just started off Minecraft initially. She loved Minecraft, which she still does. She still often visits, and it's taught her like she uses like the redstone stuff, and she learns all these like if and statements, like as in with coding, right? Where if this happens, this will happen, and you get this result. And I feel like that's been really educational for her, trying to solve these little brain puzzles and get some stimulation, right? Because I mean, I don't know how true it is. There might be studies out there saying it, but every time you learn a new thing, I think it creates new either new brain cells or new pathways, or opens up more sections of the brain to give you stimulation, and therefore make you smarter in a sense, perhaps. Now, video games aren't the only thing that do that, obviously, but it's an entertaining way to achieve that, right? Learning new strategies in video games, because going video game to video game, there's an impossible amount of different strategies that you have to learn, like new things that's giving you stimulation, learning strategy, and also the socialization aspect, right? Now with children, yes, I agree. You have to be somewhat careful, especially with these big multiplayer games. Like I put parental controls all over my child's games, like with Fortnite. She loves playing Fortnite, and I put all the parental controls on that. Like not gonna let her play with whoever she wants. She can't friend request anyone she wants. She's very limited in who she can chat with, and like I'll be on top of it for that. So yes, I do know that you need to take care with that. And then people that are ignorant to video games, right? I find that they give they're ignorant to video games, but they're willing to let their kids play video games, and they don't realize that the amount of toxicity and the reach that they're giving their children freely to participate in these games. So their children, that's how you get these toxic children, because you don't know anything about the video game. You don't know how to put parental controls up. You don't know how to set boundaries for your child when they're playing the video game, because you don't care to learn, because video games are for kids, right? So let the kids play. I want nothing to do with it. And I feel like that ignorance has given way to these children that are a little bit they're a little bit iffy. Like, you know, where you get to see those videos online of like kids raging out and cursing and using racial slurs and things like that.
Oh, and I've heard them personally too.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful. But if you decide to get into video games, especially as a parent, and a parent that's willing to bolster or let their children pursue that hobby, like being educated in that can and how to set those boundaries can do wonders for your child, right? Because they're learning, but they're not being subjected to the toxicity of these other children and adults that are playing these online games. I know when my daughter, she plays with her cousins, yeah, and now her cousins, they are being raised by their grandparents, and they have no idea about video games. They know nothing, and they let them play like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And games like that. And
Yikes.
And it's awful. They have all this access to all these people, and when I see them in person, I can overhear conversations that they're having when they're playing with my daughter, and like the language that they use, it's a little abrasive, I will say, and like the amount of crap talking, you know, and the curses that they say when they're angry, like they let these words slip constantly, and they're so much more willing to let them slip, right? Because it's the norm for them, because they play Call of Duty with adults
Right.
and they're like yelling at each other,
and the adults are no better. They're just a bunch of children yelling at a game, yelling racial slurs. And Call of Duty is the worst when it comes to racial slurs.
It is bad. It is bad sometimes. I mean, admittedly, sometimes, well, it's because that I feel it's because of that disconnect that we talked about. Like, how long ago was it now?
Oh,
like episodes past of where I was saying like you detach yourself from reality or the fact that that's another human being that you're playing with. It's not just, you know,
the consideration goes out the window. You just
yeah. Like, because people are so willing to detach themselves from it because they can't see the person, obviously. They're just a voice, you know, that they're playing against for a set number of minutes, and then they're never going to see them again, right? So they completely detach themselves from the fact that's another person. And it's just like what these people do, like, just to, I don't know, get a rise out of folk. And it almost make a sport out of it. But let's get back on track. But no, I think. What was the question?
Well, the question I originally asked.
Yeah, I've totally forgotten.
That's right. So the question was like whether it's really beneficial to play these games for kids.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. Okay. I did say that. Also going to the storytelling aspect, right? So I haven't seen it yet in my child, at least, but I know when I was young and games like, because like I used to play a lot of like simpler games like Banjo-Kazooie. I played countless hour, like all the rare games.
Oh yeah, I played some weird game called Taz the Tasmanian Tiger.
Yes. The Australian.
Yeah, the Australian
Yep.
threw boomerangs. Yep.
Yep. That was my jam too. I loved that game. Absolutely. That was a great one.
I'm a
Holy
little
crap,
surprised
I
that you
forgot
know
about
about that one.
that. Oh man.
I thought
absolutely.
I thought whenever I finally got rid of it, I was like, nobody's gonna ever know this game.
No, man, I put so many hours into that game.
Picked
I
it up
loved
at
that
an
game.
FYE. I was like, man.
Yeah. Oh, dang. Wow, that takes me back.
Right?
I've completely forgot that game existed.
You're welcome.
Man. But yeah, it was that Banjo-Kazooie and Conkers. I played a lot of which Conkers was more that was a sneaky one. Yeah. Like I got away with being able to buy that game, but it is pretty vulgar, you know. Especially for a kid. But it looks cutesy, you know, because like it's a little cute squirrel that you're playing with. So it was very sneaky. But I mean, other than that, but then after like those games, I started getting into more like storytelling, like Final Fantasy games, right?
Right.
Those were my first. That was my first introduction into like story focused games, and it just opened up this like this entirely new world for me as a child, and it was I don't know, it was incredible. Like I remember the feeling of it was when Final Fantasy X came out, and I don't know what year that came out, but I was I don't know, I was maybe like a little bit older. I can't recall, but it was one of those games where like just watching, and I didn't even play it myself. I would watch my brother play it on his PlayStation, and I would just be interested in the story. Like he would do all the battling and stuff and farming levels and what have you. And then I would just be sitting by waiting for the next cinematic clip, you know, the next point of the story, being able to read the conversations and see where everything's going. And it just ignited this passion within me to see the story unfold. And it was incredible. And I really value those memories and what it did for me. And what it's opened up for me as far as enjoying stories in the future, even as an adult. And I am excited to see if that moment, or when that moment comes to my child, and I want to be able to have conversations about it and see what about it she loves, and just see that passion ignite, and I would love to see that in many more children in that generation. Just like see what effect it has on them, rather than seeing them fall victim to playing nothing but, you know, first person shooters, you know, constantly, and Fortnite and blah blah blah. I want to see I want to see that spark ignite with good storytelling and making that shift.
Right. When I was younger, first person shooters, stuff like that, was solely the games that I would play with friends and be on a team with them. Every other game that I played was single player only, like Spider-Man, um, the Tasmanian Tiger, as we talked about, the Grinch, like a lot of these, and eventually when I was like mature enough to prove that I could play like games like God of War, get them, play them, and they had puzzles too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, I said to the lady I was talking to about this, I said, these games can provide something good for them. I was like, not just the stimulation like you were talking about, and if you were to supervise them well enough and teach them what the game could not, I was like, but there are games that can at least give you information. They can teach you things, tidbits, like it. Sometimes it's just the smallest of things.
And I hate how that argument is made, and then that same person that said something to the effect that video games are for children, they will turn around and they will sit on their couch and watch reality TV.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that. It's like, okay, so you're just sitting back and watching someone else, some dramatization of real life, and you're not actually doing anything, and you get invested in this story. Though I'm not trying to talk down to people that enjoy that enjoy the drama and whatnot of reality TV. Okay, so it's one of these things that I feel, going back to that podcast where we that episode where we were talking about like being a man or whatever, all these superfluous things where you need to work hard, get lots of money, invest in all these things, buy a home, buy a nice car, blah, 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 blah. The good list goes on and on. Okay. So my thoughts are where you're not supposed to play video games because you need to be miserable and you need to work hard for things that I don't want to say that you don't want, because some people do want these things, of course, but there's so many people who don't care about all the fluff, right? We like if we're speaking to myself, I don't want all these things, right? I don't want like a brand new shiny car or a huge house, this, that, or the other. I just want the quality of my life to be something that I can hang my hat on by the end of it all, right? I want to be able to enjoy these things that I'm passionate about without being patronized for enjoying them. Now, that's like video games they're this thing that I absolutely adore. And I love the stories. I love creating stories with my friends, especially like we have plans to play Sea of Thieves later today. And I love Sea of Thieves because it does have some storytelling aspects to it, but the like most of the time when you're playing it, it's just going around on your own little adventures with your friends and getting into trouble constantly. And these are I love creating those stories with my friends, these fun memories. Obviously, me and you, we can't just go to the local harbor, jump on a ship, and go sailing around and murdering and pillaging other folks. Right? It's not
a fun idea, but frowned upon.
Being able to do that in a video game, create these fantastical stories with your friends, and holding it close to your heart, like these awesome memories. It's so precious to me personally, and and like kids can enjoy this too. And like, admittedly, when it's a child playing, they think of they children tends towards the small pictures, right? They want the instant gratification, this, that, and the other. They don't want these grander memories. Like, sometimes inadvertently they are made anyway. But when, as an adult, when I go to play a video game, I want to create these stories, and stories are made in oftentimes misery. Yeah. So let's say I love it when, like, you go to this, let's say you get this fancy vacation, right? And you go there, it's a tropical beach or something like that, and everything's pleasant and everything goes smoothly and blah blah blah. You would see the sunset over the ocean, and this, that, and the other. And but the memories that I always remember are the ones where you're absolutely miserable. And you think, for some reason, you think so fondly back on those memories, especially when those memories are made with people that you love. Yeah. Whether it be friends or family or significant other. It's those, the misery that you experience together. You create these amazing stories.
Right.
Right. And I feel in video games, it's the same thing. Like, sometimes it's so challenging, and you create these hardships and other people create these hardships for you, and you get so emotionally invested. It's something that happens. It's almost out of your control, I feel like, because when we play video games, something just pulls us in, and we get so invested in it that it bothers us sometimes. Like, we get so frustrated, and we get angry, and we start shouting and getting mad at the other players and this and that.
Don't I know it? And then I would hear about it sometimes by some people who would be like, "Why do you get so mad at a video game?"
Yeah, it's because you're opening yourself up to it, and I love that. I love when that we can so willingly open ourselves up to these video games and get so invested, like the joys of it, and the happiness, and when little moments pull at your heartstrings, it's incredible, and that's what I really appreciate about video games and sharing them with your friends, and I think it helps you grow emotionally, right? Where it feels like so often as if older generations are trying to emotionally stunt you. Yeah. Where, like, I remember growing up, my dad would always be like, don't stress about it so much, or like, get over it, or you need to, like, harden yourself, to this, that, and the other. Right? You can't experience anything emotionally, right? Because then your heart will be broken more often, or whatever they want to say. But they want us to be so emotionally stunted, and I feel like going into it and investing yourself emotionally, it helps you to grow and mature that emotion rather than cut yourself off from it entirely, right? Because then, like, I feel if you grow emotionally and you learn about yourself and that aspect of your being, you're much more prepared to handle so many more difficult situations, right? Whereas if you're emotionally stunted and something terrible happens to you, like, you don't know how to react, right? And I feel like I know maybe I'm giving video games too much credit. I mean, perhaps, okay, but I feel like they've helped me to grow
Maybe we
so
have
much.
a biased opinion toward the fact that we play video games.
That's true too. It could very well be that fact. Yeah. Uh, gosh, what else can be said about it though? I mean, like we're trying to defend it constantly, but we have no no party here at least that can argue our point.
Right.
And
So we're not wrong, just plain and simple. You can't argue it.
we agree with each other too
gladly
much.
argue it in the comments.
Yeah. Absolutely. There you go. Call to
Yeah,
action.
exactly.
We need a call to action.
Yeah.
What is your opinions on children or video games being made for children and the effect of video games on one's psyche? I guess. I mean that's a lot of. You can probably go off in a paragraph about that. But I don't know if there's a character limit or not on YouTube comments.
I have no idea.
But give it a go. You know, give us a good summation of your thoughts. But okay, so my question to you is, as far as the emotional impact on you, we'll get past the intelligence part of it. How have video games helped you think emotionally?
Oh, well, I can think of one, definitely, but I was much older when I played it.
What video
So
game's
it
that?
would be like Red Dead. Red Dead 2 specifically.
Okay, well, this is the whole argument as because you're an adult and you're still being your intelligence is
Right.
still being tested.
Still
yeah?
emotionally invested
Yep.
into something. So
Right. So how did it
I mean,
affect
just
you? You think?
emotionally invested into a character like Arthur Morgan, who is just an absolutely well-written character. And I chose to go about the light side of the route, right? Because there's a morality thing when it comes to the game.
All right, yeah, the morale
Right.
meter. Yeah,
So
I get
you
what
have
you're saying.
different outcomes that come from that. But either way, I mean, he is a well-written character, no matter what side of the story you choose.
Right.
And then on top of that, there's also the whole horse care and taking care of your horse. And if your horse is well taken care of, there's a specific, just a bond that's formed and his reaction toward the horse. I mean, I don't want to do any spoilers, but if something happens to your horse, I got a little emotionally invested into a horse. I was like, I love this horse. So when something happened to it and I no longer had it, I was distraught. I didn't think it was like, I was like, really? You my horse is gone.
So this is what I'm thinking, right? Because you got emotionally invested in a fake horse. Yeah. Now this is the thing. Like your average person is never going to own a horse in their life.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like that's reasonable to make that statement. Yeah. So when you play these video games, you get to simulate that life experience where you wouldn't ever have the possibility of experiencing otherwise. Yeah. So I feel like playing video games and going into these simulations, you get all these incredible experiences that you would never have the opportunity to experience in real life. You have too short of a life to be able to accomplish all of these things. But in video games, it can be simulated. It's brought before you on a silver platter saying, here, right off the bat, you have everything to lead this life, right? For the $50-$60 that it costs to buy the video games. Here you go. Like, enjoy it for like a month or two. Yeah? Or even longer, perhaps. But it's like you would never be able to lead all these lives in your actual lifetime, right? But with the opportunity of video games, you can get a simulation of those experiences. So I'm starting to feel, as we talk through it, I'm feeling like video games actually enrich your life. In all honesty, I feel like it's this incredible enrichment that it gives to you. Now, not obviously it's not the case in all video games, because obviously you have the video games where you just shoot and kill other players, and you rank up and you buy more cosmetics and
Right.
stuff like that. But I mean, there are video games out there that are just well told stories that you can participate in and lead that life for however long that video game
Absolutely.
is. And yeah, it can give you that emotional intelligence, all those experiences that it's just completely unachievable in real life unless you dedicated your life to that one thing.
You know what I do want to hear, on top of what we already asked for audience participation, is also give us a name of a game that you got emotionally invested in, a character, or
Oh, I would love that. Like,
I think that would be interesting, because I would like to know if there's more games that I could find and get
Right.
emotionally attached to and go, oh, that's a pretty good game.
absolutely. Thank you for joining us on the Merle and Locke podcast. If you enjoyed this banter, please consider becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/Merle and Locke, or simply follow the link in the description. Thank you.